This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, creator and producer of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium, July 23rd through 27th in Boca Raton, Florida. The purpose of these CEO interviews is to introduce our attendees to the exhibitors who will be present at the conference so that attendees can use their time most efficiently. These interviews are meant to be used in conjunction with the lessons taught at the Mining Investment Classroom on Rule Investment Media. Today, I am absolutely delighted to introduce a CEO that I have known and invested with very long standing, Mr. John Borshoff of Deep Yellow. John, first of all, thank you for your efforts over the years on behalf of mining investors, but thank you particularly for subjecting yourself to this interview and sponsoring the Natural Resource Investment Symposium.
Rick, it's a great pleasure to be here, and anything that you touch, you seem to be the Midas man of the resources, and let's hope this will turn to gold, or in our case, yellow cake over.
Well, John, like you, I failed retirement fairly miserably, and I need to preface this interview by saying that while I own shares in all of the companies which are showcased at the Natural Resources Investment Symposium, John Borshoff is the author of my single greatest speculative success, which was Paladin Resources. We financed it at a dime. We had an initial blush, I guess, with humility, where the stock fell from a dime to a penny before, through John's effort, retracing from a penny all the way to $10. John, I want to start with that easy introduction by asking you to describe your history in the uranium business, going all the way back before Paladin. Talk about some of your successes. Talk about your experience and the experience of your team so that people understand the credibility that you have for the rest of the discussion.
Thank you, Rick. A big question, and so my sort of start in uranium started in the early 70s, I guess, post the oil shock. At that time, I was in national services in Vietnam, so I had a bit of a late start, where all the guys were sort of making it, and I just sort of was starting really at the sort of baby side of my career, and so I joined then, before Paladin. I joined a group called Uranium, a German group, or West German at that time, and in uranium, and I really had 16 wonderful years of really bedding down not only from my geological side, but also across the spectrum. I was allowed to be mentored, and I understood, or at that stage, from a large company point of view, the whole thing from marketing, financing, exploration, the global uranium evolution that happened in that wonderful period in the 70s and early 80s. And at that time, I then became a general manager of the Australasia, which was the only non-German person that ever qualified to that level. And in the late or early 90s, they pulled out of Australia, mainly due to Australian policies and politics, but generally the whole uranium scene was starting to wane away in the post-Chernobyl period. 2 years later, I took part of my team, or the team that was with me at Uranerts in Perth, came with me on a consulting group. Then I decided, well, I'll found Paladin and use the big database that I had acquired for my golden handshake from Uranerts, which is a global one, and that floated, and it was fairly tough years. The uranium was downhill. Rick, that's when we met, and had some wonderful experiences there. And as you say, it was nearly 10 years from the initial sort of flurry of it's going to happen to then in the early sort of 2000s when it did. But in that time with Paladin, I sort of had a vision that uranium nuclear would come back in, but mainly it was a demand-driven contrarian approach. In other words, set yourself up, allow sort of the nuclearification to happen. After Chernobyl, everything was dead, and the rest became history. We had prepared a good base. The with and the When the Chinese came in, and there was an interesting thing, the Chinese, and we'll talk maybe a bit later why it's different today. It was only one economy that said nuclear, will go for it, and it really helped create Paladin. It was the only company, junior at that time, that actually achieved substantial production. The only one, other one being, or the only one, was Kazatomprom, and the from really tough times. It was just a newbie. We built the team up, or I did. I knew that you can't do uranium or any metal, but particularly uranium, without really expertise, understanding, giving confidence to those that are fearful of the commodity, and that you're a pair of safe hands. So with that, everything came, vision, reality, joined up, and we became the largest junior to produce up to 8 million pounds, sixth largest or seventh largest producer in the world, 2 operations, three expansions, and that team was just a standout. It was a phenomenon, as you say, in an investment sense, but also in a technical sense. We delivered, and the only thing that sort of tripped us up was Fukushima, and my mistake, or the boards. We thought Fukushima would be a small event, having experienced Chernobyl, and we didn't. We didn't kill off our debt, and that's what happened.
So
So that's
let's
the history.
let's fast forward. It's worth noting that Paladin went from a $2 million Australian market cap to a $5 billion Australian market cap.
Yes.
Fukushima happens, the nuclear industry shuts down. You take a couple of years off. I was delighted 3 or 4 years ago to get a call from you saying that you were considering going again with Deep Yellow. I won't go into what possessed you to do that at age 70, but I'm delighted that you did. So let's talk about Deep Yellow. Let's talk about the value proposition with what you have today. Not Paladin 2.0, because you're focused, at least thus far, or you started being focused in one country, but you have, in fact, been active in amalgamation. So let's talk about the value proposition around Deep Yellow today.
I will, but I want to say something a little bit before that. So when Paladin started, it only did so, I believe, by your early efforts when we were broke. When I started Deep Yellow, after amicably retiring from Paladin, I got the idea that there was a real, I wouldn't try and do Paladin because that was on a demand dynamic, but there had to be something that would energize me to really get Deep Yellow, and to say, I'm going to pin my bloody coat on this and go for it. So I tried before to entice people to support me in this venture. When uranium was down at $20 to 19, nobody wanted to talk. Nobody could raise money, and I thought, bloody hell, I'll give my mate Rick a call. I said, look, I've got an idea, and this 15 million that was raised at that time, I wouldn't be here today, guaranteed. And that started off a plan, as we discussed at that time, that I wanted to. Deep Yellow was the target. We would try and get some value out of those projects in that country, and also sector consolidation. And we talked about those issues, and so on, the funds that were raised. But I really must say, one of the big things for me was that what I said I would do, we did. And I think that consistency, I think the vision, it's fair enough having a vision, but the dedication to adhere to that through thick and thin, believing that there will be an outcome, and the whole idea. This is now pre zero emissions, pre the sort of Russian conflict, and it was based on a shortage that was predicted, and also the lack of expertise in building and operating mines in an industry that was really dead. And I mean, the only junior that had come up in the last lot was Paladin with its projects. So what we did then was through the drill bit, we found the keys to the vault in Namibia. Lots of people were looking at this, or the previous management, and we discovered after 5 years, good geology, good application, and getting a deposit, which now it is a 30-year mine life, low grade but fabulous, and it'll tick along, riskless, because it's 20 kilometers from deep Langer Heinrich, which we built, the team. And part of the philosophy was that I would get my team, that was the core team from Paladin, and take them on the journey. Initially, I couldn't afford very much, so it'd be a day a week, 2 days, and gradually build up as we build up our bases, and some equity thrown in, and they all wanted to come in on the journey again. So that alone was an achievement. Through the drill bit, zero value, $6 million on the company at the time, and now there's sort of 70 million pounds of reserves, and which we think will get to 100 million of reserves. And in parallel with that, the sector consolidation, which is an art in itself, as you know. Everybody believes their babies are the best and the cleverest and so getting an asset that you want to get, and a board that maybe is entrenched in lifestyle or whatever, and people can't see how the value of a 2 + 2 can make 6. And it took us a year longer, I guess, to get to where we had then diversification through a wonderful asset in Western Australia called Mulga Rock, and there we were then diversified potentially a deposit in Namibia called the Tumas deposit, the project, and Mulga Rock in Western Australia, and potentially to give us about a starting block of about 7 million pounds per annum. So we were looking for substantial production, something that the utilities will put their ears up, and also put their ears up because we were a team that had delivered before, where none of them have delivered. There's just so few uranium mines have been built outside of the US, of course. And so we are, I believe, unique and differentiated, and as I say, through a persistence and a belief and a strategy that became even more potent with zero emissions that came, which have eventually put nuclear back in the limelight, and diversity of supply, which the geopolitical situation has created. So the strategy is refreshed, it's relevant, and we're building deep value in the company. Over.
John, further to our educational mission, we like our clients and subscribers to have contacts at the company. We found people do better relating to people than they do to companies. We like a curated experience for our investors. When our attendees and subscribers want to learn more about Deep Yellow, who in particular do they contact, and what is the contact information, so that they can have a curated tour of Deep Yellow?
Right. So I like all in my team to talk to people, and even without me there, to know that this is not a contrived situation. Everybody knows the story, but people can get in contact with myself. Just drop me an email at john.borshoff at deepyellow.com.au. It's in the back of all of our presentations on our website. Just drop me a line and I will guarantee I'll get in touch and we can have a Zoom or a Teams call, a telephone call at my night time, your daytime if it's in the US, and we can take it from there.
Ladies and gentlemen, note that was the right answer. We've told you before not to buy shares in a company where the CEO isn't interested enough in what he or she is doing to talk to their partners, talk to their shareholders personally. And you just got that pledge from John Borshoff. John, thank you so much for your contributions to my net worth, for your contributions to the mining industry, for subjecting yourself to this interview, and in particular for your sponsorship of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. It's a delight to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Rick. As always, all of your symposia are great. They're great for the industry, and I'll participate whenever I can to those. And thank you for inviting me. Over.
Thank you again.